Good afternoon. From misuse of food stamps, misuse of public assistance, to Medicaid fraud, to transportation fraud, and everything in between. Sullivan County's fraud team has been very busy in 2018, as we will announce today the 100th arrest for 2018 since we've started this fraud team. And we will remain vigilant, protecting taxpayer dollars, and on guard for fraud, waste, and abuse into the new year. I want to commend the Sheriff, Mike Schiff, for assigning a member of his detective squad to work as part of the law enforcement component of this team, with my district attorney's investigator and an assistant district attorney who is dedicated to enforcement of these prosecutions. This team is working well together, and the arrests, prosecutions, and monies being recovered are certainly evidence of that. In addition, I want to thank Commissioner Joe Tedora of Family Services and DFS members of the team who are here today for all of their hard work. Without all of these folks working together, we would not be as successful as we have been. And just to highlight some of the numbers that we were looking at, in 2017, there were $268,000 in round figures in folks who were either investigated, arrested, or civilly investigated for overpayments for violations of these programs. There was $761,000 in front-end detection. Again, the good work of the folks at the Department of Family Services who prevent payments from going out in the first instance. That's a lot of money. In 2018, there were $415,000 in alleged overpayments, arrests, prosecutions, and $390,000 in front-end detection, again, preventing those dollars from going out. The message we reiterate here today is clear. While Sullivan County remains ready to help those in need, we will not be taken advantage of, and we will not allow those who falsify applications for assistance to defraud our taxpayers. As stewards of the tax money, we will not allow people to steal from us. We will ensure that public assistance benefits and programs are properly administered, and anyone abusing them will be held to account through arrest, investigation, and prosecution. Sheriff Schiff.
I would just say we're very happy for our people at the Sheriff's Office to be working closely with our District Attorney Jim Farrell and the people he has assigned to this detail, and Joe Tedora, Commissioner of Family Services, and his team, who does some heavy lifting, the girl standing to my right. They're the front end on this. They're the first line of detection, but when it gets past them, if you do take benefits that you're not entitled to, we will investigate, we will find you, and we will hold you accountable, either through arrest, restitution, or both. The monies that the county gives out are there for people who are in need, and if you falsify an application, again, it's inappropriate. We need to save those funds for the people who desperately need them, and we should be looking out for them. So I'd like to thank all my partners in this, and we will continue to be diligent and work hard, all of our partners, the DA, Commissioner, and all of our police partners in Sullivan County, to make sure everyone is held accountable. Thank you.
Deputy Commissioner Moon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'd like to recognize this really is the civil component of what we do, and our law enforcement piece, of course, is the criminal or the law enforcement side of it. Bringing the two together, I really appreciated the way that they've come together, they support each other, and they've come to make a difference. Just to give you a glimpse into one of the after-the-fact impacts that it has had on the Family Service Department is we have our lowest public assistance caseload right now that we've had in more than 15 years in Sullivan County. We're down to a point where the numbers are averaging out only around 500 cases each month, and that's a tremendous decrease over the last 3+ years, and I think that some small credit is due to the task force and the impact that it's made to get people to recognize that we expect things to be done in an appropriate manner. I have one tip for the public. It's a pet peeve of mine. It's an area that both the civil and our law enforcement team are well aware of, and that's the misuse of Medicaid transportation that takes place in Sullivan County. We have individuals that don't seem to still understand that Medicaid or medical transportation is to take you to a health provider and to have a health service provided to you. It's not to go to the grocery store, the swimming pool, to pick your children up, or some other aspect of personal life that is non-Medicaid and medically related. And that continues to be an issue, and in our data here you'll find that there are a number of cases when someone misuses Medicaid transportation, they're usually charged with a felony. Even though the amount may not be significant, you might take a ride from downtown Monticello out to Walmart, for example. That's a taxi ride that might cost you $12, and it won't cost you much more in Medicaid transportation, but we have to charge you with a felony. And we're hoping that people will recognize that there's more creative ways for them to meet their personal needs rather than misuse of Medicaid transportation. So, thank you very much.
I'd also just like to echo what the sheriff said and highlight 3 arrests that were made, and while not necessarily involving fraud, welfare fraud, or public assistance fraud, there were 3 arrests on Halloween, which I find very significant that this task force played a role in. 3 sex offenders who were on parole for violation of the sex offense laws in the state of New York were arrested through joint investigations with the Village of Liberty Police, the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, and this task force for violating the conditions of their parole and being around children. All 3 were arrested. All 3 are currently detained pending parole proceedings. Again, this welfare task force, this fraud task force, has impact far beyond welfare fraud. This is a public safety issue. The men and women of this task force are working hard to make sure our community remains safe, and again, to make sure that our taxpayer dollars are spent appropriately and that they are being administered appropriately through these public assistance programs. So I'd like to thank the sheriff, Bill, all the people at DFS for all the work they do. They are truly a credit to this community and a credit to our county. And those numbers going down, I think, Bill, you know, the economy helps, but I also think people know Sullivan County's not open for fraud anymore. We're closed for fraud. Okay, so if you want to commit fraud, if you want to take that public transportation to the swimming pool or to go buy cigarettes and beer, you're going to be held to account. We're going to investigate you, we're going to arrest you, and we're going to prosecute you. And it's serious business. You know, Medicaid dollars are scarce. They're taxpayer money, and they should be spent appropriately.